Hello and welcome back to the third episode of the Fightfit Challenge, where everyday ordinary people from the Fightfit gym take on the challenge of a professional fight. All the contestants train together over 8 weeks and are then matched up evenly by head trainer Paul Fifield and Fightfit owner Bash Kasina. So the fight is even, and so each person does not get hurt.
Let's go!
On our last episode, we saw a high-quality fight between two of our female members, Diana Thum and Marsha Music. Diana's aggression and constant pressure overpowered Marsha, and Diana walked away with the win. Today we are excited to showcase our first heavyweight clash for the season, featuring the investment director at the Future Fund, Dave Simons, and the dedicated chef, Brendan Brown.
Let's discuss the heavyweights.
Yep.
David Simons,
Yep.
Brendan Brown.
Yep.
The weight difference here, as you can see, is about 10 kilos.
Yeah, it's right on. Yeah, right on the cusp there.
Yeah. I think David's ability to move
Yep.
is going to solve that problem for him.
Absolutely. The way that he slips those punches on the way in and doesn't get caught is very impressive, and he comes in with some nice rips, hooks and uppercuts. So I think he'll be in a really good position to counter that distance.
Yeah, I'm actually quite excited about that fight because Brendan can be very, very tight, hard to hit if he wants to be.
Yep.
And because of that extra weight, when David gets in, maybe David's in a bit of a problem because he can fight in close as well.
Yep.
Brendan can. So it'll be a very interesting fight.
Yeah. I also feel like they've got this grit about the way that they fight. So both of them just, bite down and really just go for it. And I think that is going to, lead to a very, very interesting and tough fight for both of them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that heavyweight fight, Bash.
Dave Simons grew up in New Zealand and has worked in finance for most of his career. When his current job became on offer, he made the trip across the Tasman and has been living in Melbourne ever since.
I'm a director at the Future Fund, which is a sovereign wealth fund for Australia. So my job is to help invest a large pool of capital for the government. Mostly my job is finding private equity investments. So mostly a global portfolio, travel around the world, meet a bunch of people and try and select teams that can invest money well. So what I enjoy most about my job would be the breadth of it and the intellectual challenge, understanding risk return across a bunch of different asset classes, and investing is really about solving puzzles. To solve that puzzle, generally you need to boil the investment down to what do I need to believe in order to make this make sense, and generally it's one or two things, and if you can narrow it down to those one or two things, then it's about how do I gather evidence that either proves or disproves that. So it's kind of like being a little bit of a detective, but so you need to be mathematically sound, but you also need to think outside the box a little bit. The reason why I started boxing was initially I think just to get fitter, lose a little weight. Working out at Fightfit is probably more intense than I would do on my own, and it's probably more intense than I would do just with a personal trainer. I think the atmosphere at Fightfit is great. It's pretty relaxed. Everyone takes the training pretty seriously, but has a laugh. There's not a lot of aggression around. I decided to fight because I was getting better at training, I think, and Bash came up to me and said, if you really want to test yourself, here's a way to do it. And so I thought this is a good opportunity to really push myself in training a little bit because fundamentally I'm lazy. So this is a nice stick at the end of it. If you're not fit, you get punched in the face a lot. I actually want to perform well and box in that fight. So for me, it's about training the technique as much as anything else. I haven't had to go to work with a black eye. I was really hoping I would, but it never happened. So I've gone to work with some marks on my face, and that's pretty unusual. So of the people who notice it, maybe 50% notice it and make a joke, and 50% notice it, their eyes go wide and they don't say a word. They might think I'm in a fight club, they might think that I'm in an abusive relationship, I don't know.
Brendan has worked in many professions in his time, but keeps coming back to being a chef. The demands and pressure of the kitchen is where he feels most at home and where he thrives.
I started cooking when I was 16 years old, and I've pretty much been doing it on and off ever since for the past 20 years. Cooking's like, I don't mind a high pressure situation. Like the pressure situation of cooking, even though it's a stressful sort of like a stressful job that a lot of people can't deal with. For me, there's nothing better than like being organised and finishing a good night, like a busy night, and everything going smoothly. That doesn't always happen, but yeah, I don't mind dealing with the pressure situation of it all. So it's like an addiction sort of thing. It can be annoying, but it can also be like, you got to sort of do what you're good at. And I find that cooking is something that I'm actually not too bad at, and it's something like I always tend to fall back on because of that reason. The pressure is what we must thrive on. We must be that whole. You've got to be a good chef. You've got to be pretty much an organised freak. So if kitchens that don't run well is because you can't organise yourself and you can't handle the pressure, and everyone gets stressed out. It's all more of a cliche thing with chefs. This is more. Chefs must be pressure junkies. It's the only way I can describe it. So probably around 7 years ago, I started boxing. I was really, really overweight, pretty depressed with myself, and I just found Fightfit pretty much online, and I started training with Ruwan, one of the trainers there, and yeah, I just pretty much got hooked to it, and he pretty much took me from a 140 kilo depressed human down to like, in the mid-90s at one stage. I noticed my weight was starting to get a little bit out of control again. I was unmotivated and like, working at a pub, drinking too much beer and stuff like that. What better time just before summer to actually get my head out of my ass and actually train hard for something and actually sort of like see a goal at the end of it. It's a personal challenge just to see like I can actually do it. You know what I mean? Like it's a nerve-wracking thing to know that you have to jump in a ring and the possibility of getting your head beaten in. But hopefully the dealing with the pressure in the kitchen will give me some sort of like, tools to work with in the ring, because it's going to be a pressure situation in there. If I can just handle like what's going on around me and try and, like I said, block out the crowd and everything else and just focus on the one thing.
Both boys are mentally ready for this fight, so stay with us to see how they overcome the challenges of training as professional fighters. Today we are watching our first heavyweights being put through their paces. Unlike professional fighters, our challengers have to cope with not only the demanding training, but also holding down full-time jobs.
I think I've coped with the training pretty well. It's been intense. It's a different type of fitness. I don't think I've been as fit before. The interval nature of it is pretty intense. Certainly takes a lot of stress out of your day when you come here and hit a bag or hit pads. It's a lot of fun, so that sort of interval thing keeps you motivated, keeps you going. So making time for the training's been tough. So I had to negotiate about 6 months out, 2 weeks away from travel, because I travel a lot for my job, and pretty much leaving work early to get to training every night. Hardest part of training is burpees. I think when you're learning to box, there are lots of little breakthroughs. You start something and you feel like you've gotten really good at it, and then you try something else and you're completely uncoordinated and you need to start again. So, everyone looks like a champion on the bags or on the mitts, and then you start sparring and you're uncoordinated all over again. It takes you weeks to even start to get a glimpse of what it might be to be good at that.
Got to keep moving with these big blokes. Stepping close, move, boom, stepping real close, and then all of a sudden, if he's chasing you, you take that quick change in direction and come back in, and you find yourself next to him, which is where you'd be better at it. He's got the reach on you there.
So basically, I've tried to teach him a lot of movement, a lot of angles, a lot of slipping. Strengths are his movement. For a big guy, he's got really a lot of power in his hands, got heavy hands. He's very calculated. I've taught him how to think. Basically think how to be a boxer, not just think how to be a brawler.
No, it was nice. Very nice uppercut. See what happens when you vary the punches?
Weirdly, because of my build, I like to be on the outside a little bit and come in, come out. I think that's my style more than anything else. With some of the bigger guys, I need to work on the inside a bit more. I'm less comfortable staying there, but when I do, it works better. So I need to learn that in the next week and a half, I think.
Weaknesses, he drops his head a couple of times and sometimes gets caught sort of taking his vision away while someone's got the pressure on him.
With Dave's evasiveness, Brendan has his work cut out for him and will need to get his fitness up to Dave's level. And will also have to work out a way to keep Dave at the end of his reach and prevent him from getting in close.
coping with training has been pretty tough with the workload as well. But no, it's gradually got a little bit easier, even though the training's got harder. I think the fitness levels are starting to slowly kick in, but I don't know, when you think you're on top of it, you're totally not. I actually enjoy the sparring, even though it hurts a little bit. It just seems to, like, you can size yourself up and like you learn a lot out of it. It took me a while to get used to actually getting punches thrown at you, but once you get the hang of it and get used to it, it's not so bad. It's the technique of it all you got to get used to. Actually get used to someone throwing them at you and then counteracting off that. So yeah, it's been difficult, but you know, as the more you do it, the easier it seems to become.
Brendan's strengths he's a good boxer. He actually moves really well for that weight. He's pretty light on his feet. He's got all his punches are great, nice long punches, got good hooks, good body shots.
Definite breakthrough is just in the fitness. Like from the day one, the first training session, I thought, I can't do this. You know, I realised like, shit, I'm so far behind that you start putting a doubt in your mind. And then coming to sort of last night's training session when it was 35 degrees and getting pounded, I could notice it push through that mind barrier thing where that little voice in your head saying, stuff this, I'm over it, let's go home. Where I think the other voice saying just keep pushing is starting to outweigh that little voice. So that's probably the breakthrough, to know that I can actually finish a session and push myself further than I thought I could.
So with Dave being extremely fast, Brendan's going to have to chase him down a little bit, try and cut him off and try and push him to the ropes to be able to tag him because he's just so quick.
Yeah, you're sort of staying on the end of his jab.
Yeah, man.
You know, yeah. So good. And you're chasing around the ring. You're actually got your side to the rope as well. You should be in the middle. Yep. And just cutting him off. Then you'll find that he's doing all the work and you're doing nothing. Right. But you're almost doing as much work as him chasing him.
Yep.
Yeah, so you want him to get out of legs, run out of legs. And you do that by just cutting him off.
I won't be sad on myself if I lose and say, well, at least I didn't put in hard enough. I've put in as much as I can and more. So just the strength is that I've given everything. I'll give everything, and just hopefully the weakness will only be if the nerves don't take over. Try not to get hit in the head too much style. That's pretty much all it is. With the guys it looks like I'll be probably coming against, that's pretty much the style I'm going to have. It's like trying to get out of the way and get in and get out sort of technique. So definitely not a stand and deliver type of person. More of a, like, you know, get the hell out of the way and try and hit them when they're not looking sort of thing.
I think I've trained as hard as I can. I think if I'd pushed more and I would have been pushing too hard and overtraining a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with how it's gone. Been away from the booze for 2 months. I've been eating right, so I'm pretty happy with it. So, you know, the one thing you want to avoid is getting in a fight and losing and then thinking maybe I could have won that if I'd trained a little bit harder. So I'm pretty happy with how I've trained.
Try and be a lot more calculated, set things up, try and make the other person fall into what you're trying to set up in terms of a lot of maybe faking. Fake him to throw a shot or fake him to get his hands in a certain position and then try and target where he's exposed. Those sort of things is what we've worked on a lot, and I think that's what we'll run with on the night.
I think for everyone, like, you don't really know until they step into that ring how they're going to react on the night. Like, some people freak out, some don't, but I think Brendan, he'll hold it together on the night. Yeah.
The only thing I'm worried about is hopefully I don't get knocked out. You know what I mean? That's the whole key, but that's what it's all about. We're training towards it, so like I said, if you're not nervous, you're fooling yourself. So I'm definitely nervous about it, but bring it on.
Up next, we will see all the action and excitement of this first heavyweight clash on the Fightfit Challenge.
High anticipation here at the Melbourne Pavilion. A heavyweight explosion tonight. The bomber, Brendan Brown, against dangerous David Simons. Bruce Eva and Paul Fifield with you. Let's hear from the two fighters.
Day's been pretty good. Just relaxing, feeling a tad nervous, which is to be expected, but let's get it on. I reckon I've gone over the fight in my head probably 15 times, maybe more, maybe 15 million times. So yeah, it's good and bad, but we'll see how it goes.
Feeling good, feeling pretty relaxed at the moment. Yeah, there's a height difference, there's a weight difference, but I think I'll just fight the way that I've sparred, which is try and get in, get out.
Paul, it's obvious from the tail of the tape, Dave Simons is giving away significant height and weight.
Yes, Dave Trotter, Dave Simons' coach here, he's very happy to take this fight because he knows Dave is very, very light on his feet, and that's their game plan. On the same token, Brendan Brown doesn't use his height, doesn't throw a long jab, but he's definitely got the advantage on weight. So let's see what happens.
Here we go, the first of 3 2-minute rounds, and Brendan Brown on the attack immediately. And Dave Simons, he's got a stick and move, and he's pouring out that left jab to keep the bigger man off him.
Yes, David straight away getting on his toes and moving. And Brendan Brown walking forward and trying to dominate and use his weight to overpower the smaller fighter, David Simons.
The key for Dave Simons here, he's got to make himself a small target, as Brendan Brown throws plenty of punches from plenty of angles.
Dave can throw some hard punches, and Brendan Brown, being bigger, can throw even bigger ones. There you go, there's a big combination right now, and he did finish with a right hand to the head of Dave Simons.
Just clipping the right jaw, and again, as Brendan Brown finds the target for the elusive David Simons.
Yeah, David can't afford to mix it too much, can he? Because Brendan does throw some big punches. Let's just see how this curtails and whether he can just stay on his toes and keep away.
Dave Simons already fighting with his mouth open, breathing through his mouth. Not the best idea for boxers.
Yeah, well, I used to talk to him a fair bit about that in his training. He has his mouth open, and it's like getting punched twice when you've got when your mouth is open like that.
And a bolo right from Brendan Brown as Dave Simons uses all the ring and proves an elusive target for the much bigger man.
You watch Dave Simons, he's always got a smile on his face, very happy-go-lucky sort of bloke. When he spars, he's always smiling, and just before then I noticed him give Brendan Brown a big smile.
He seems to be enjoying himself in there. Plenty wouldn't. It is their grand final. Dave Simons in the black trunks, Brendan Brown in the orange, closing stages of round 1, and he's beating him to the punch now, a little, the smaller man.
Well, I don't know about that. He just got caught a couple of big ones by Brendan Brown. Right hand right on the head of David Simons. He can't afford to mix it, Dave. He's got to stay on his toes, stick to his game plan. See the right hand coming over the top by Brown?
Last seconds of round 1. Third man in centre ring is the very experienced Jimmy Boland, and he calls break. What a first 2 minutes we've seen.
Let's have a look at this slow motion. Lovely combination by Brendan Brown. Beautiful combination. That's what Dave Simons can't afford to do. Stay there too long and get caught. He loves going to the body. Have a look at the body shots there from David Simons. He's a very good exponent, very good technique, but he's got to be careful about mixing with such a big bloke.
Didn't just go headhunting. We're ready for the second of 3 2-minute rounds. 90-second break between rounds. They touch gloves and they're into it again. Good left hand there from David Simons. Brown covers up, but Brendan now looking to stalk forward and throw out that bullet-like right.
Yeah, Brendan's got a very tight defence, hasn't he, when he wants to? Nice and tight. Keep on walking forward. Ooh, he let that right hand go, didn't he? He tried to really load up on that right hand, did Brendan Brown. David Simons just missed his chin, and he holds on. When he gets in trouble, that's the big thing to do against a big bloke, is just hold on and hope that the referee doesn't pull you up on it.
Proving a difficult target to hit flush, but as soon as I said that, he did get nailed then again, David Simons. But his work rate is to be admired. He goes downstairs to the body. Brendan Brown comes forward again, but Simons with a 3-punch combination, finishing with a right rip, gets through again. All good scoring punches.
One thing I'm very impressed with David Simons is trainer Dave Trotter calls things, and he tends to throw it almost straight away. Very hard to do when it's a first fight. Very hard to listen to that corner and just then
execute the strategy.
That's right. Very hard to do. It's usually the crowd, you just hear that crowd, and there's a big crowd here, and they're all cheering him on, and you tend not to be able to hear your cornerman. But Dave Simons has that ability to do that.
And he got through again with the jab, did Simons, but in return, 2 sharp straight rights from Brendan Brown, who again, he's having to punch downwards, but he got him again, a couple of beauties then at the end of that exchange.
Yeah, I think Bruce were the biggest punches of the fight so far. Brendan Brown landed a couple of big ones on David Simons.
David Simons comes back again, left hook, good defence then from Brendan Brown, who clubs away with the right hand predominantly.
He got caught with that right hand again, David Simons. He's got to keep that left hand a little bit higher because Brendan's looking for that right hand.
Another right hand from Brendan Brown goes whistling over the head of David Simons, but he then caught him to the jaw. Good pace from the two big fellas.
Yeah, it's been a good round from both fighters here. Quite even. There's the end of round 2. A little bit of slow motion from the highlights. There's Brendan. Nice and tight defence. Didn't get caught with once from those David Simon punches. You see David's weaving underneath that right hand of Brendan Brown's.
A few of those punches from David Simons taken on the arms by Brendan Brown. As we're ready for the third and final round. Jimmy Boland, very experienced referee, calls them to centre ring. They touch gloves, and whoever wins this round could well win the fight. It's been a very hard fight to score as David Simons gets off with a left jab. Brendan Brown again wails away. David Simons showing all of his evasive skills.
As you said, Bruce, the winner of this round will win the fight. I think both cornermen, I could hear them saying, come on boys, you need this last round, you need this last round. And that's the way it's now it's working. They're throwing a lot of leather.
Simons predominantly attacking to the body now. Oh, then goes upstairs and he jolted the head back of Brendan Brown, who throws a couple of punches that went unrewarded.
Yeah, he sucked him in all right, mate. He sucked him in. He threw a couple to the body, then bang over the top of the head. Landed cleanly too.
Dave having the better of the early part of this third and final round. Brendan marches forward again and they tie up in centre ring. Referee Jim Boland separates them.
He's been playing very smart, David. Every time Brendan gets in close enough, he does hang on. And it makes the referee come in and separate it. He's landing with the right hand there, David. He's starting to land more.
And upstairs as well. Brendan fires back, but once again, you'd have to say Dave had the better of that exchange. They're both sucking in the big ones. Fatigue now really a factor in the closing seconds of this fight.
Both boys have trained very hard for this, but they're starting to feel the worse for wear now, aren't they, Bruce? You can see them breathing heavily.
It's starting to get a little sloppy, Paul. No doubt about that. All of those punches.
Oh, lovely big right hand from David Simons. Lovely big, right on the chin of Brendan Brown.
I was going to say they're all taking on the gloves, but that last one got through and really got the attention of Brendan Brown. Big finish here from Dave Simons, and he gets through again through the peekaboo defence of Brendan Brown.
He's got to keep throwing that right hand over the top. It's starting to land now, so he might as well keep throwing it. Dave there, he tries again, goes the body first. Oh, it's a lovely combination from both fighters. It's getting very close to the end of the fight now.
We'll be going to the judges' scorecards again. Jim Boland keeping a very close eye on both fighters. Brendan Brown looking for the big money shot. I don't think it's going to come, and that's the end of the fight. Both men out on their feet, exhausted. They've given them their all, but what a fight. What 6 minutes of action between these two heavyweights.
Yeah, you can't get fit enough for your first fight, Bruce. I tell them at training time and time again how tired they're going to get. They don't believe me, but they certainly believe me now. Let's see what the judges have to say.
We have a unanimous decision. Judge Anthony Hibbs, Peter Flaherty and Henry Nissen all went for the blue corner. David Simons.
About getting in and out and picking shots. I was saying to Brendan back there, it didn't feel like I was winning it when I was fighting it. But pretty amazed with most of the stuff that I threw landed, and so I was pretty happy with that. Oh, it was awesome. Nervous beforehand, felt amazing when I was in there. Dead tired, but great.
Who would have thought that this was their first fight? Both guys showed tremendous skills, combinations and critical thinking. But it was Dave's evasiveness and movement that got him over the line. On our next episode, we have our second female fight with marketing strategist Jenna Crossgrove up against our supply chain manager, Joanna Pitt. If you would like to compete in the Fightfit Challenge or just get fit and have fun, call 1300 Fightfit or go to fightfit.com.au. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Fightfit Challenge.